All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something you, our amazing listener, brought to us.
Oh, excellent. Can't wait.
It is the ISO 22301.2019 standard.
Ah, classic.
Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at Clause 8. And this focuses on operation, which
Oh.
is, really where the rubber meets the road when it comes to business continuity, right?
Yeah.
It's not just theory. This is about actually doing it,
Mm.
making it work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, having a beautiful shiny fire extinguisher on the wall, but having no clue how to use it.
Exactly. It's going to be
Yeah.
functional, right? Integrated into how things actually work. So our mission today is to kind of break down Clause 8 step by step. Think of us as, I don't know, maybe instructors or maybe, I guess, guides, walking you through how to make this stuff actually work for you for real-world resilience.
Yeah.
Not just theoretical, but practical.
I like that. Guides through this dense jungle of a standard, I suppose, making it clear, making it actionable.
Precisely. So what's on our syllabus for this deep dive today? We're going to be hitting operational planning and control. So how do you actually implement the framework? Then, of course, we got to talk about business impact analysis and risk assessment.
The fundamentals.
Yeah, like what could actually hurt you and how badly. And then we'll get into the strategies and solutions.
The, okay, now what do we do part?
Yep, and of course, those turn into the actual plans and procedures, all documented. But a plan's no good if you don't know if it'll work, so got to talk about the exercise program too. And then finally, we'll wrap up with how you evaluate your whole setup, your documentation, your capabilities, the whole 9 yards.
Sounds comprehensive. Let's get started.
Okay, let's kick it off with 8.1, operational planning and control. What's the first thing that comes to mind for you with this one?
Well, it's about thinking of business continuity, not just as a one-time thing you set up, but as this ongoing process. Like, how do you weave it into your everyday activities?
Right.
The standard's pretty clear that you got to plan, implement, and control,
Yeah.
right? All the processes to make sure you actually meet those continuity goals you've set.
So it's not just like a binder on a shelf somewhere.
Exactly. It has to be part of how things run.
So it's almost like, think of it like having fire extinguishers in a building.
Right.
They're part of the operational safety, but you don't just buy them and forget about them. You do regular checks. People know where they are,
Exactly. You practice.
Exactly. So business continuity got to be that active integration, making sure the plans and procedures are like part of the DNA of how things get done when things go wrong.
I like that. Operationalized DNA.
Okay, let's shift gears. Let's move to 8.2. And this is all about business impact analysis, or BIA, and of course, risk assessment. Like the real nitty-gritty of what could go wrong, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And this is really, truly the foundation. Everything builds on this, your whole business continuity plan, your strategy, all of it. And 8.2.1, it kind of lays out the overall approach, how to do both the BIA and the risk assessment, sets the stage.
And the first part of that is 8.2.2, the business impact analysis itself.
Yeah.
So what's the big deal with the BIA?
Well, it's about looking at, what your organization actually does, like your core activities, your key resources, and then really digging into how disruptions could impact all that over time. It's about if this thing breaks, how bad does it hurt and for how long?
So it's not just like a vague feeling of, oh, something bad could happen. It's like, okay, if this system goes down, we lose X dollars per hour.
Right, exactly. Putting numbers to it, timelines, the whole shebang. I think that's where, organizations might have those aha moments. Like, oh, wow, this is how bad it could actually be.
So it's probably more than just, losing money right away.
Yeah.
What are some other things a good BIA should dig into?
Oh, so many things. Think about your reputation. If you're down for a long time, how does that affect your brand? People lose trust, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the legal stuff, regulatory obligations. If you can't deliver a service because of a disruption, are there penalties? Fines.
I hadn't thought about that.
It happens. And then, of course, there's the operational impacts, delays, customers getting upset, productivity going down the drain. A really good BIA, it paints the whole picture, all the dominoes that could fall.
That makes a lot of sense. Seeing all those less obvious impacts probably makes you really appreciate a good business continuity plan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so after the BIA, we've got 8.2.3, and that's the risk assessment. How does that fit in?
So the BIA is all about the impact, what happens after something goes wrong. But the risk assessment is about the causes. What are the things that could actually trigger a disruption?
Yeah.
So you're thinking about all kinds of risks: natural disasters, fires, floods, cyber attacks, your supply chain falling apart, heck, even human error.
Right, someone spills coffee on a server.
It happens. The point is, you figure out how likely each of these things is, and then you combine that with what you learned in the BIA about how bad the impact would be, and then you can prioritize, right? You know which risks need the most love and attention in your plan.
Makes sense. Okay, so we know what could go wrong, how bad it would be, and what's most likely to cause it. So now we got to figure out what to do about it all.
Exactly. And that brings us to 8.3, business continuity strategies and solutions. Time to get creative, come up with some good ideas.
And 8.3.1 lays the groundwork, right?
Yeah.
Just the basic idea that, hey, you need strategies, you need solutions. It seems obvious, but got to state it.
Oh, yeah, you gotta start somewhere.
So 8.3.2, we're identifying those strategies and solutions now. What kind of things are we talking about here?
So this is where you gotta brainstorm. Think outside the box a little. What can you do to keep things running if something goes wrong? So maybe you have a backup facility, or everyone can work remotely, or you've got a backup supplier lined up. Those are all maintenance strategies, right? Keeping things going.
I see.
And then you got your recovery strategies. This is how you get back on your feet after a disruption. So backing up your data, having redundant systems, even figuring out manual workarounds for a while.
Okay, so you've got all these potential solutions. How do you decide which ones are actually the best? Which ones you're going to go with?
That's 8.3.3, selection. Got to pick the winners.
So how do you pick?
Well, a few things to think about. First off, cost. Different solutions are going to have different price tags. Then there's feasibility. Can you actually do it, given your organization, your resources, your people?
Right.
And then, probably most importantly, can the solution get you back up and running within your recovery time objective?
Right. That was the time frame you figured out in the BIA.
Exactly. Got to pick
Yeah.
strategies that'll work, that you can afford, and that'll get you back online quickly enough.
So a lot to consider. And I imagine all these strategies are going to need some resources, right? Not just ideas, but actual stuff. People, money, whatever.
Oh, absolutely. And that's 8.3.4, resource requirements.
Mhm.
It's the, okay, we have a plan, now how do we pay for it phase.
What kinds of resources are we talking about?
Everything. I mean, you might need money for new tech, for that backup site we talked about. You'll definitely need people. Who's going to do all this stuff, right? And then you got the tech itself, backup systems, communication tools, specialized equipment, you name it.
Right.
Oh, and don't forget the physical stuff, office space, if you have to relocate, access to power, water, all the essentials. Every strategy is going to have its own little resource shopping list.
Okay, so we know the strategy. We've picked the right solutions. We know what we need. Now we actually got to go do it. Implement it all.
Exactly. 8.3.5, implementation of solutions. This is where it all becomes real. Like actually setting up that backup site, configuring those redundant systems, training your people on the new procedures. It's where you're actually building up that resilience.
Love it. Okay, so let's say we've got everything implemented. How do we make sure that when something actually happens, everyone knows what to do? Enter 8.4. Business continuity plans and procedures. We're talking documentation now.
Yeah, exactly. Time to write it all down.
Yep.
This is where all those great strategies and solutions, they get turned into like official plans and procedures. 8.4.1 kind of just sets the stage, you know, why you got to have all this documented. Basically, it's your guide when things go sideways. Make sure everyone's on the same page, responding in a coordinated way.
So one of the first things you need in a response is, like, who's in charge, right? Who does what?
Absolutely. And that's 8.4.2, response structure. Got to know who's calling the shots. The standard's really clear that you got to define roles, responsibilities, and how everyone's going to communicate when stuff hits the fan. Like, who's the incident commander? Who needs to be in the loop? How are decisions going to be made? All that jazz.
Got to avoid the chaos.
For sure. Clear structure minimizes confusion, makes the whole response way more effective.
Makes sense. And then, of course, you need to be able to actually communicate during a disruption. That's 8.4.3, warning and communication. Why is that so important?
Well, first off, you got to be able to spot trouble brewing, right? Detect those potential disruptions early, send out warnings to your people. And then when something actually does happen, you got to keep everyone in the loop. What's going on? What are we doing? What do you need to do? All of that.
Keeps everyone calm, informed.
Exactly. And it's not just internal. You got to talk to your customers, your suppliers, any regulators involved, keep them updated, manage their expectations. Bad communication during a crisis can really make things spiral.
Right. Makes sense. And then we get to the heart of it all. 8.4.4, business continuity plans, the actual, plan. What makes a good one? What should people be thinking about when they're putting these together?
All right. Well, first off, it has to be practical, detailed, but easy to follow, especially when you're under pressure.
Right. Nobody's reading a novel during a crisis.
Exactly. So you need clear triggers. What specific events are going to kick off the plan? Step-by-step actions for each team. Up-to-date contact info for everyone involved. How are you going to recover your systems, your data, your processes? Do you have alternative sites? It's basically your playbook, right? Tells you how to navigate the whole mess.
Love it. And then 8.4.5, recovery. This is like the goal, right? Getting back to normal.
It is. The recovery part of your plan, it spells out exactly how you're going to get back on your feet. Not just the technical stuff like getting your systems back up, but the operational stuff too. Getting those processes running again and eventually getting back to your regular setup. It's a journey with stages and it's got to be documented.
Okay, so we've got these amazing plans, all documented,
Mhm.
but, plans are great, but they don't always survive contact with the enemy or, reality.
Oh, yeah. The real world is a harsh mistress.
So that's where 8.5 comes in, the exercise program. Why is it so important to actually test these plans?
Well, because you don't know if they'll actually work until you try them out. I mean, you could have the most beautiful plan in the world, but if it falls apart when you actually try to use it, what good is it? The exercise program is about testing, simulating, drilling, all that. You're putting your plans through their paces to see what works, what doesn't.
So it's like a fire drill, but for your whole business continuity plan.
Exactly. And it's another chance for those aha moments. Better to find a flaw in your plan during a practice run than during a real crisis, right?
Definitely. So what kind of exercises should organizations think about doing?
Well, there's a bunch. Simple tabletop exercises where you basically just walk through a scenario as a team, talk it out. Those are good for getting people familiar with the plan.
Okay.
Then you can get more complex. Actually activate your backup systems, maybe relocate to your alternate site, see if it all works. And you can even do communication exercises, test how you're sending out those alerts and notifications. It really depends on your risks, how complex your plan is, all that.
Okay, so we've made it to the last stop on our Clause 8 tour. 8.6. Evaluation of business continuity, documentation, and capabilities. This is where we look back and see how we're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Continuous improvement. The standard says you got to review everything, all your docs, your strategies, plans, procedures, and also how good your organization is at actually putting them into practice. Because, things change.
Right. The business world doesn't stand still.
Nope. New threats pop up, your organization grows, maybe your priorities shift. You got to make sure your business continuity setup stays relevant.
So what does this evaluation actually involve?
Well, you look at what you've learned from your exercises,
Huh?
any hiccups, anything that didn't work. You look at what's changed within your organization. Maybe you've got new departments, new products, whatever,
Yeah.
new risks that have emerged. And you use all that info to, tweak your plans, adjust your capabilities, keep things sharp.
It's like a constant cycle, right? Learn, adapt, improve.
Exactly. Business continuity is not a set it and forget it kind of thing. It needs constant attention.
So there we have it. Our deep dive into Clause 8 of ISO 223L1.201 is complete. We went from understanding potential impacts and risks to developing strategies, documenting those in plans, and then testing them and constantly evaluating how it's all working. Clause 8 really is the engine room of an effective business continuity setup, wouldn't you say?
Totally agree. If you do all this stuff, your organization, it's going to be able to not just handle disruptions, but bounce back quickly, keep running. It's about being proactive, adaptable, not just reacting when things go wrong.
So for you, our listener, as you're thinking about all this, here's a little food for thought. Which part of Clause 8 do you think is the most crucial? The one that, if you ignore it, you're really going to feel pain if a disruption hits? Is it the planning, the impact analysis, the strategies, the plans themselves, the testing, the evaluation? Which one keeps you up at night? How do all these pieces fit together to make a truly resilient organization? That's something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.